Hello all, welcome to Narayana IAS Academy. This is Sureka Bhaskar presenting to you the Daily News Analysis. In today's discussion, we'll be dealing with a number of topics taken from The Hindu and the Indian Express which are relevant and important for the UPSC CSE examination. Now let us look into the topics. The first one is from The Hindu. Amid boycott campaign in India, Muizzu wants China to top the list of tourist arrivals. In this, we'll be discussing about the Maldives president appealing to China to send an increased number of tourists in the backdrop of Indian tourists cancelling the reservation to the island nation of Maldives. The second news that we'll be discussing about will be a note to security planners, where we will be discussing about the low intensity conflicts and also have a look at how the security threats have been changing over time. Following this, we'll be talking about most Indian cities are far from the clean air targets, where we will be analyzing the progress made by the National Clean Air Program. Followed by this are the K-shaped questions that has been taken from the Indian Express. This discusses about the recent SBI report which states that India's K-shaped recovery is inaccurate. Following that, the last news of discussion for today would be the long-running legal dispute over the minority character of AMU, where we'll be discussing about the Aligarh Muslim University, the constitutional provisions for declaring an institution as a minority education institution, and followed by that we'll look at the Supreme Court judgments as well as the counter arguments by the government. The first article for the day is amid boycott campaign in India, Muizzu wants China to top the list of tourist arrivals. So this particular article talks about the Indian Prime Minister's visit to Lakshadweep Islands, following which the Maldivian president has appealed to China in order to send more number of tourists in the backdrop of Indian tourists cancelling the reservation to the island nation. So here, this particular topic is important as we find it in the International Relations GS Paper 2, where we talk about India and its neighborhood. And also, we'll be discussing in this article regarding India-Maldives relationship and its neighborhood, as well as the strategic importance of Lakshadweep Island and its potential replacement to Maldives as a tourist destination. Moving forward, we have a previous year question that has been asked in 2013 mains examination regarding the political developments in Maldives in the last 2 years, and should they be of any cause of concern to India. So any kind of bilateral ties or any kind of significant change happening anywhere in the country becomes relevant for the UPSC CSE examination. Moving forward, now let's get into the news. The Maldivian President Mohamed Muizzu had appealed to China in order to intensify its efforts to send more tourists to its country in the backdrop of the cancellation of reservation of the Indian tourists to the island nation, that is the Maldives. So, where did this particular controversy actually begin? This controversy actually dates back to January 4, when the Indian Prime Minister had actually visited the Lakshadweep Islands and also promoted its scenic beauty as well as the potential of Lakshadweep in becoming a good tourist destination and an attractive tourist destination in the future. Following this, it actually invited a lot of derogatory remarks on the PM by the Maldivian politicians. Following that, there has been a boycott Maldives online campaign trending on the social media. So moving forward, now let us look at the strategic location of Maldives. How significant is Maldives for India and how significant is India for the Maldives, the historical evolution of India and Maldives ties, as well as the period of straining in the relationship between the two countries. So this is the map. If you look at the map, we can see that Maldives is strategically located around 400 kilometers from India in the southwestern direction. Okay, so Maldives is nothing but it is an island nation in the Indian Ocean, which is about 400 kilometers southwest of India. And it is made up of over 1,100 coral islands, which are grouped into 26 atolls. And now let us see the significance of Maldives and its location for India. The first one is its strategic location. Actually, that is, we saw that Maldives is located in the southwestern direction around 400 kilometers from mainland India. So, this location acts as a toll gate between the western and the eastern Indian Ocean. Moreover, 50% of India's external trade transit and 80% of energy import transit actually happens through the vicinity of Maldives. Added to that, it plays key role in India's neighborhood first policy, according to which India aims to establish or maintain a cordial or a friendly or good relationship with its neighbors. Moving ahead, the strategic location of Maldives is important for counterbalancing China's influence in the Indian Ocean region. So now let us look at a brief evolution of India-Maldives relations. So if we see this infographic, we can see that India and Maldives have had deep-rooted relations in terms of language, culture as well as religion. And if we have to be very particular with examples, we have the Dwivehi language which has influences of Sanskrit. And if we look at Buddhism as a religion, it flourished from 3rd to 11th century in Maldives. And also with respect to architecture, we can see that the mosques and palaces are actually displaying kind of influences from Indian architectural style, particularly of that of temples. Now moving forward, in 1965, that is when it comes to early recognition, India was among the first to recognize Maldives' independence in 1965, and soon after that, we had established diplomatic relations with the island nation. And following that was a period of 1965 to 2012, which was considered to be a period of cordial relation in terms of trade, defense training, infra projects, tourism, etc. And also, India was one of the first responders in terms of Operation Cactus in 1998 as well as tsunami in 2004. Now, let us look into one by one in detail. So, first one, if we take a look at defense, India provides around 70% of Maldivian Defense Forces needs in terms of training. Also, India had completed a lot of projects in diverse dimensions like health and education. In health, the best example is Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital, and in education, India has established Maldives Institute of Technical Education. And also, if we see international markets, India was the largest tourist market for Maldives. And followed by that, let us deal with this first responder, Operation Cactus. This is nothing but the Indian Army destabilizing a military coup in 1988 in Maldives. Followed by that, the tsunami of 2004 that actually caused, wreaked havoc in Maldives. India was one of the first countries in order to offer grant and aid. Followed by this, if we see the period of 2012 to 2018, we see a brief period of strain, that is, in terms of growing influence of China, as well as Abdullah Yamin, a pro-China president, being elected to leadership. That is, what happened here was, in 2012, Abdullah Yamin, he becomes the president, and he actually showed closer ties with that of China. Followed by this, in 2013, Maldives abandoned few agreements with India. That is, we would have heard about Muizzu Island. Next, in 2014, Maldives has withdrawn from Commonwealth. And in 2016, that is 2015 to 16 period, there were concerns over Chinese submarines docking in Maldives ports, which further increased the tension. And in 2017, India cancelled various projects with Maldives. And following this, you will see the period of 2018 to 2023 would be a period of renewed partnership where Ibrahim Mohammed Soli, he was a pro-India president and he actually engaged with India in terms of greater infrastructural projects. Namely, we have the Mali project where the bilateral trade actually surged to around $323 million in 2021. And now is the final period. The recent developments or the recent strain in the relationship was actually aggravated by the pro-Chinese president who was actually elected to power, who is Mohammed Muizzu. And this actually was preceded by removal of Indian army troops from Maldives and the India Out campaign that took place in Maldives, and also the cancellation of the hydrographic survey, which is nothing but the agreement between India and Maldives in order to carry out the bathymetric survey, that is the underwater survey, or in order to source information on the underwater resources in the exclusive economic zone of Maldives. And also it is followed by the recent Lakshadweep row. So here I hope we all of us understood that what is the evolution and how it has transcended from a historic deep-rooted ties to the period of tensions in the current scenario. Moving forward, now let us have a look at the map of Lakshadweep and the associated strategic importance as well as the potential challenges this area might face as a replacement to that of Maldives as a potential tourist destination. So, Lakshadweep is the smallest union territory of India and it is roughly 200 to 440 kilometers off the coast of Kerala. So, this is actually the state of Kerala and you can see the Lakshadweep islands situated here. It comprises of around 36 islands, of which 10 are inhabited, as we actually see in the map. The different islands include, you can see the Chetlat, the Bitra, as well as the Bangaram, the Agati, as well as Kavarati, which is the capital, then the Kalpeni, Minicoy Islands, and the Androt. Moving forward, looking at the geology of Lakshadweep, these islands are made up of the corals accumulated on the volcanic tops of the Indian Ocean Ridge, that is the IOR. Looking at the climate, it has a tropical climate which actually has a temperature of around 27 to 32 degrees Celsius all the time. Most of the population is comprised of the Muslim population. The languages which are spoken there are Malayalam, Jaiseri, and Mal. Also, the key economic activities of this particular island UT is fishing, coconut cultivation and tourism respectively. Also, now let us look at Lakshadweep as a tourist destination, whether it is a viable alternative to Maldives. The first one, what are the possibilities of it replacing Maldives as a tourist destination? The first one is that it has similar stunning beaches and clear water. So, it is also characterized by natural beauty which is similar to that of Maldives. The second one is cultural experience. There is unique culture influenced by Indian traditions. Following this, it has the potential of ecotourism because it has unspoiled environment which is suitable for eco-friendly practices. The next one is proximity to India. More accessible for Indian tourists and it's at a closer distance when compared to that of Maldives, and it is less crowded, that offers a tranquil as well as an authentic experience. So what are the positive challenges? The first one is infrastructure. Lakshadweep as a small island is very less developed when compared to Maldives, especially in terms of luxury accommodation as well as other infrastructure. Next is transportation and accessibility. It has very limited transport options to and within the islands. The next one is environmental sustainability. There is high risk to the fragile ecosystem from the increased tourism in case if it becomes an alternative tourist destination. Next one is regulatory constraints. The strict regulations might limit the rapid tourism development. And finally, the global recognition. In terms of global recognition, when compared to Maldives, Lakshadweep has a limited global reputation or recognition that internationally when compared to that of Maldives. Now let us look at another dimension, that is Lakshadweep as a strategic alternative to Maldives in the geostrategic realm. So here the first one is it will provide a geographical advantage because of its location in the Arabian Sea near the key maritime routes. This will enhance its strategic importance. The next one is maritime security because it will serve as a base for monitoring and securing the important sea lines of communication, which is crucial for the maritime security. The next one is military significance. There is a potential of development of naval and air bases in order to bolster India's defense capabilities in this particular region. And finally, balancing regional powers. This will act as a counter to the growing Chinese influence in the Indian Ocean region. And finally, to conclude this particular topic, that is, in case if this actually a topic as such comes in an exam, we must always give a neutral perspective. So in that sense, amid India-Maldives Lakshadweep tensions, leveraging the Lakshadweep's potential as a tourist and a strategic alternative, it always aligns with India's regional and economic interests, as you know, and it underscores India's ability to adapt geostrategically, and this will also promote the domestic destinations. At the same time, it will balance regional influences also. And this will not only diversify India's tourism portfolio, but it will also enhance the maritime security presence, thereby countering external influences in the Indian Ocean region. The next article that we will be discussing about is a note to security planners. So, in this particular article, the author basically talks about the change in the nature of security challenges and what are the possible security challenges facing India in 2024. So, this becomes relevant from mains paper 3, that is challenges to internal security, and here we will be discussing about security challenges globally and its changing nature. Moving forward, we have a previous year question which reads, analyze the multidimensional challenges posed by external state and non-state actors to the internal security of India. Also, discuss the measures required to be taken to combat these threats. So here, internal security and any kind of security issues become important. Moving forward, now let us discuss the news. So this particular article is written by the author C. Uday Bhaskar. He talks about India's security challenges in 2024, and also he talks about the transition in the nature of security challenges that is affecting the global economy and how India should actually prepare for the same and the implication of something called as the low intensity conflicts. So now moving ahead, let us discuss about the changing nature of security challenges across the world. The first point is that we see a lot of global examples like Russia's annexation or attack of Ukraine, especially the 4 oblasts. This is nothing but the territories, namely Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson. So this was one of the war activity, that is the attack of Russia or the Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 in order to annex 4 of its territories, namely Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia. And also we have instances like the Chinese aggression in the Galwan. So these two actually are examples of instances where major nations have involved in warfare. So this is totally in contravention or it is totally converse to the post-Cold War belief system where they believed that major nations do not take part or do not wage war or they do not involve in warfare. The second major point is that, so these two form the first security challenge and first breach of the security that has taken place in the recent past. The second dimension to this is the nature of the conflict itself has changed. How has it changed? It has transcended from the historical nature of waging war by state actors to the current trend of low intensity conflict by non-state actors. So this can be involving militias, terrorists, etc. This distorts the regional stability. Okay, so the first one we basically saw that there have been major nations which are involving in warfare, where we saw the example of Russia's annexation of Ukraine as well as Chinese aggression in the Galwan Valley. The second one is the nature of the conflict has actually changed. That is, the historical nature of war by state actors has transcended to the current trend of low intensity conflicts by non-state actors, which include militias, terrorists, etc. And this actually forms asymmetric warfare. The third dimension to this is that these attacks have become unpredictable. And also, it is harder to counter because we still involve traditional military strategies to counter the same. So, this results in, first one is prolonged unrest, political instability, and strain in the resources. So, the perfect example of the unpredictable nature of attacks and the inability to counter examples include the Hamas attack and the Houthi rebel attack. So this group has significantly proved that they have demonstrated their capability in order to, that is by mounting significant military attacks, indicating a rise in asymmetric warfare. So now let us look. That is, as we discussed, the historical context. The Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, I told you the annexation of 4 of its oblasts, and China's movements in the Galwan reflect a shift towards a large-scale conflicts by major nations, which is controversial or contrary, challenging the post-Cold War belief system, where they believe that major nations do not involve in warfare. Moving forward, we have non-state entities like the Hamas and the Houthi rebels. They have demonstrated their capability by mounting significant military operations, thereby indicating a rise in asymmetric warfare. Moving forward, let us look into why and how India should be prepared. The first one, how should India be prepared? First is the technological advancement. Obviously, we need to make use of drones and cyber capabilities, which are even been used by smaller states and non-state actors. And this essentially means India needs to invest more in similar technologies and defense systems. The second one is intelligence and the anticipation. There has been a lot of unprecedented attack. So there has been surprise in the conflicts like the Galwan standoff and the Mumbai terror attacks. So these kind of instances actually underline the need for better intelligence and the ability to anticipate these kind of unconventional threats. Moving forward, there is a huge need for modernization of military, where India needs to update its military hardware as well as rethink its strategic doctrines, considering new forms of warfare, including cyber warfare as well as relating to space domains. Now let us understand what are low-intensity conflicts and what are its challenges. Low-intensity conflicts are nothing but those with less than total warfare capabilities like insurgencies and terrorist attacks. And what are the challenges and impacts associated is that these are unpredictable. They are hard to counter because we still have traditional methods to counter the same. And this leads to unrest and instability in the region. The next one is causes of concern for India. There has been a rise in the terrorist activities, especially the LIC activities as seen in Jammu and Kashmir, which is complemented by the external involvement that eventually threaten the national security for India. Moving forward, the author has actually suggested few of the steps as way forward in the article in order to counter or in order to enhance India's preparedness in countering these security challenges. The first one, there has to be an integrated approach, which is essentially combining the military, diplomatic and socio-economic strategies in order to address the root causes of the low-intensity conflicts. Followed by this, there has to be a regional cooperation where India has to cooperate with the neighboring countries as well as the international organizations to share the intelligence and coordinate the actions to counter the threats. The next one is capacity building. There has to be enhancing of capabilities of security forces in unconventional warfare, intelligence gathering, and cyber operations. The last point is public engagement and awareness. Educating the public about the nature of these threats and involving them in the nation's security framework will be a crucial aspect of a holistic defense strategy for India. The next article that we'll be discussing will be most Indian cities are far from the clean air target. This is nothing but it is talking about an independent think tank which has actually analyzed the performance of the Indian cities regarding or with respect to the National Clean Air Program, and it has found out that most Indian cities have been far from reaching its target. So this particular article becomes important from prelims, that is general issues on environment and ecology as well as biodiversity and climate change. And also the relevance for the examination is that you can be asked a question on the NCAP, that is the National Clean Air Program, as well as on the particulate matters 2.5 as well as 10 respectively. Moving forward, we have a previous year question in which reads, which of the following can be found as pollutants in the drinking water in some parts of India? So similarly, apart from the pollutants of drinking water, we can be asked on pollutants that actually affect or impact the atmosphere, soil, etc. So here PM 2.5 as well as 10 become important topics of discussion. Now let us look into the news. An independent think tank, Respira Living Sciences and Climate Trends, have analyzed the progress which has been made by the National Clean Air Program and the challenges faced by it. So now let us look into what is this National Clean Air Program is all about. So here, if we actually look at this data which is provided, it gives the concentration of PM 2.5 in the atmosphere and how different cities or the states have actually performed with respect to it. Okay. So now let us look into what is the National Clean Air Program. Before moving into that, if we actually look at this tabular column that is given here, it has the information on the concentration of particulate matter 2.5 which is present in the atmosphere and how different cities have actually fared over here. It has been found that Delhi is one of the most polluted cities, followed by Patna, Faridabad, Muzaffarpur as well as Noida. Okay. And here if you see the 2019 particulate matter, that is PM 2.5 concentration has been 108 and it has actually however decreased to 102. Similarly, we can see for other cities as well. Now let us understand what is this PM 2.5. PM is nothing but it is particulate matter, and this number PM 10 or 2.5 over here actually represents that this particular matter is having a diameter of 10 micrometers or less. And similarly, PM 2.5 is nothing but this particulate matter is having a diameter of 2.5 micrometer or less. And the figures given here 108 and 102, all these are in μg per meter cube. This is how the concentration of particulate matter is actually measured. So now moving forward, let us see what is the NCAP program which is actually launched by the government. The NCAP was launched by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in order to reduce the average particulate matter concentration by 40% in 2026 compared to the 2017 level. Earlier, the target was set by 2024, but however, we have actually extended the target date or the target year to 2026. It is a comprehensive initiative which is in partnership with various ministries as well as states. And here if we look at a portal which actually tracks the status of implementation, it's the Prana portal which stands for Portal for Regulation of Air Pollution. Moving forward, let us look at the objectives of the NCAP program. The first one is to ensure stringent implementation of mitigation measures for prevention, control and abatement of air pollution. The second one is to augment and evolve an effective as well as a proficient ambient air quality monitoring network across the country for ensuring comprehensive and reliable database. The next one is to augment the public awareness as well as capacity building measures encompassing the data dissemination as well as the public outreach programs for inclusive public participation, at the same time for ensuring trained manpower and infrastructure in order to control air pollution. Moving forward, let us see what are the key findings that have been analyzed by the think tank. The key findings of the particulate matter in the Indian cities. First one is there has been a mixed progress, that is 27 out of 49 cities have shown a decline in the PM 2.5 levels and only 4 cities have met or exceeded the reduction goals. The next one is there have been marginal declines in major cities where cities like Delhi, Navi Mumbai, Ujjain, Pune, etc. have actually seen marginal declines. And moreover, Navi Mumbai have seen a 46% a rise in PM 2.5 levels. We have significant decline in some cities such as Varanasi, Agra, Jodhpur had actually shown substantial reductions, and Varanasi achieved 72% reduction in PM 2.5 and 69% in PM 10, that is particulate matter 10. Moreover, there have been seasonal and regional variations that have been observed by this particular report, where it says that higher PM 2.5 levels were there in the northern and eastern India during winter, and these were highly influenced by the adverse meteorological conditions. The next observation was that there has been a lack of air quality monitoring infrastructure. That is, most cities had less than 5 monitoring stations, which affected the accuracy and comprehensiveness of the pollution data. The next article we'll be discussing about is K-shaped questions. In this, we'll be discussing that the recent report of the State Bank of India has stated that India's K-shaped recovery is inaccurate. So here we'll be discussing about what is K-shaped recovery, what is Gini coefficient, as well as SBI reports observation on inequality as well as K-shaped recovery. So this becomes relevant from prelims, economic development and mains GS paper 3, inclusive growth and issues arising from it. Moving forward, if we look into the news, the State Bank of India report has stated that the idea of India's recovery resembling a K is inaccurate. So now let us go on to understand the concept of K-shaped recovery. So what is K-shaped recovery? What happens is, in an economy after a period of recession, different sectors of an economy undergo or recover at varying rates, at varying time and at varying magnitude. And if we actually plot that in the graph, or if we mark it, or when it is charted, this will resemble the letter K. So now let us understand. A K-shaped recovery is a scenario where different sectors of an economy recover at varying rates, times or magnitudes following a recession. And this creates a divergent economic path that resembles the letter K when charted. And this happens why? Because some sectors improve rapidly while others continue to decline or they recover slowly. Moving forward, so now let us understand the K-shaped recovery from this particular graph. If we see the economic growth or the rate at which the economic growth was maintained during the pre-COVID-19, it was almost stable, and during the COVID-19 economic recession, it has actually undergone a dip, and post which the recovery stage actually shows this K-shaped recovery where different segments like technology and other segments of retail had recovered well and even gained a lot when compared to other sectors of the economy like restaurant, bar as well as hospitality industry in particular. Moving forward, now let us look into the causes of K-shaped recovery. The first one is creative destruction in the economy. This refers to nothing but development or emerging new industries and technologies which actually outplaces the older ones during a recession. So this actually leads to a possible shift in the economic dynamics. So now let us understand. A K-shaped recovery often occurs when newer industries and technologies emerge and they outpace the older ones during a recession, leading to a shift in the economic dynamics. The next one is varied sectoral effects. Okay, so here what are they saying is that the initial impact of recession itself can actually vary across different sectors. So this uneven effect of recession on different sectors, this will set a stage for K-shaped recovery, where some parts of the economy are hit harder and they take longer to recover, while the others actually bounce back at a quicker pace when compared to the other ones. Next one is the influence of public policy. Here, to the impact of recession, how is the government response actually plays an important role. What happens here is that the government's response to a recession through its monetary and fiscal policies can disproportionately benefit different sectors of the economy. It can exacerbate or aggravate income inequality, as some industries or groups gain more from these policies compared to that of the others. Moving forward, what is Gini coefficient? That is, this SBI report on inequality as well as K-shaped recovery speaks about the term Gini coefficient, and this becomes important for your prelims examination. So let us see what is Gini coefficient. The Gini index, it is also known as the Gini coefficient. It is a tool for evaluating the distribution of income among a population. And this measure was formulated by the Italian statistician Gini in the year 1912. And why is this primarily used for? In order to assess the extent of economic disparity. This is in terms of wealth distribution and inequality, focusing on how income or wealth is spread among different individuals in a society. And this is scaled. How it is measured? It is scaled from 0 or 0% to 1, that is 100%, where the value of 0 indicates complete equality and the value of 1 signifies absolute inequality. And this Gini coefficient is graphically represented by using the Lorenz curve. Now let us see. This is a graph where I take percentage of cumulative population along the x-axis and the percentage of cumulative income along y-axis, and I mark it as 20%, 30, 40 and 50. Similarly, 20%, 30, 40% and 50. If the percentage of population and the percentage of wealth distribution is the same, that is, if 20% of the population have the 20% of income or the wealth distribution, then if we extrapolate this on this particular graph, it actually forms a straight line, and this is a line of perfect equality. Whereas if 20% of the population has only 10% of the wealth distribution, and when we extrapolate on the graph, then it results in a curve, and this curve is referred to as the Lorenz curve, which is a representation of income inequality in an economy. And the farther this particular curve is from this straight line of perfect equality, the more is the wealth inequality or inequality in income distribution in a society. The next news that we will be discussing about is the long-running legal dispute over the minority character of AMU. Here AMU is nothing but the Aligarh Muslim University. So this particular article deals with the recent 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court hearing the matters regarding giving the minority status to the institution of Aligarh Muslim University. And it is important to know that this particular dispute has been in history for over 6 decades, that is for almost 57 years. So in this article, we will be discussing about the Aligarh Muslim University, what are the issues surrounding the minority institution status which has to be given to it, what are the constitutional provisions, what have been the Supreme Court's observation as well as the counter arguments by the government. So here this particular topic becomes important because it finds relevance of Article 30 over here and minority educational institution and the criteria to grant the same to educational institutions. So we can map this to GS paper 2, that is Polity and Governance under Indian Constitution and Significant Provisions topic. Okay. So moving forward, there has been a previous year question which asked that in India, if a religious sect or community is given a status of a national minority, what are the special advantages that that particular sect or the community is entitled to? So here, any kind of religious minority or any kind of, the religious associations as well as its constitutional framework becomes important for the examination. So moving forward, as we discussed, a 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court had begun hearing on the matter regarding the minority status of the Aligarh Muslim University, and this dispute has been in history for nearly 57 years and it has been earlier examined by various other courts. So now let us understand what is this Aligarh Muslim University. Aligarh Muslim University was basically established in the year 1875 by Sir Syed Ahmed Khan in Aligarh, that is UP. So this was established initially as Madrasatul Ulum, which later became the Mohammedan Oriental College, that later got the Central University status in 1920. So this particular college was built with the objective of establishing it as an educational institution which is tuned with the British system of education without compromising the Islamic values and tradition. So now let us go on to understand what are the issues surrounding the same. So moving forward, the Aligarh Muslim University was founded by Sir Syed Ahmed Khan in the year 1875 in Aligarh, that is UP, as Madrasatul Ulum, and it later evolved into Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. Okay, and Sir Syed Ahmed Khan's objective of establishing of the college was to build it in tune with the British education system, but at the same time without compromising the Islamic values. And however, in 1920, the AMU was established as a university through the Act of the Indian Legislative Council, which elevated the status of this college as a central university. Now let us look at the surrounding issue. So what happens is, in 1920, this particular organization gets established, or it gets the status of a central university. And after independence, what happens is that in 1951 as well as 1967, this particular AMU Act actually undergoes certain amendments, and following which the provisions of the amendments were challenged in the court. Now let us see. Soon after the independence, the amendments to the AMU Act were made in 51 and 65 respectively. And it was these amendments that have led to the recent issue which were challenged before the court back then in 1967 itself. So according to the 1920 Act, what happened is it provided for the Governor General to be the head of the institution, whereas the 1951 amendment actually changed this provision from Governor General and it was replaced by a visitor, which was essentially the president. Okay, and moreover, what happened? It restricted the membership of the AMU court. So the university court, this was a supreme governing body of all the activities of AMU. So this particular AMU court was actually given, the membership of this particular court was given only to the Muslim community in the 1920, following which in 1951 and the 67 amendments actually opened it even to the non-Muslims. So all these provisions were actually challenged before the court. Now let us see. The 1920 Act actually stated Governor General of India would be the head of the university, but in 1951, it was changed to replace the Governor General with the visitor, who would be the President of India. Also, which initially restricted, that is the 1920 Act initially restricted the membership of the university court only to the Muslims, but later the amendments actually allowed the non-Muslims to join. So these challenges also diminished the university's court's authority, as I told you, which was a supreme governing body of all the activities of the AMU. So the authority of the organization was compromised, and finally it was actually superseded by the AMU's executive council. So consequently, the court actually became merely a body which was appointed by the president. Moving forward, The above amendments that we actually saw of 1951 and 67 were challenged in the Supreme Court. And what was the argument by the petitioners were that the petitioners argued primarily on the grounds that the Muslims established the AMU and hence they actually have the right to manage it as per Article 30 Clause 1. Okay, so we'll be looking at the constitutional provisions. So if you see, as a retaliation to it or as a counter argument, in 1967, the Supreme Court held that AMU is not a minority institution on the following grounds. Let us see the grounds. The court actually stated that AMU was not established or administered by the Muslim community. This is point number 1 that the court noted. The second one, the court said that in 1920, while the Muslims could have founded a university, it wouldn't have guaranteed official recognition of its degrees by the Indian government. Therefore, what happened was the AMU was established through a central act to ensure such a recognition. So what it stated that although the act might have been the result of the support that were actually garnered by the Muslim minority efforts, but it does not mean that the university was established by the Muslim minority. So this is what the court actually stated. And also it noted that under 1920 Act, the AMU was not operated exclusively by the Muslims because it was overseen by the Governor General and other statutory bodies. Moreover, it said that even though the university court only had Muslim members initially as per the 1920 Act, it was elected by an electorate which was not exclusively restricted to the Muslim population. Okay. So moving forward, in response to the observations of the court, what happened is there was a wide protest by the Muslim community after this particular judgment, following which the Union government had introduced some changes to the AMU Act in the year 1981. So let us see what was the amendment of 1981 said. It introduced the AMU Act, that is, the amendment was introduced to the AMU Act explicitly affirming its minority status. So here the government has actually given the minority status to the AMU, which declared the university as an educational institution of their choice established by the Muslims of India, and subsequently that was incorporated as AMU. And ultimately what happened following this amendment in 2005, this was overturned by the Allahabad High Court. Let us see. In 2005, the Allahabad High Court overturned the 1981 amendment to the AMU Act as it did not qualify as a minority institution according to the Supreme Court's verdict in 1968 in S. Aziz Basha case. Now let us look at Aziz Basha case versus Union of India 1968. Here, the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court ruled that the particular phrase establish and administer in Article 30 Clause 1 should be interpreted conjunctively. This means that the conditions to qualify for an organization or an institution for a minority educational institution should be satisfying two grounds. One is that the institution must be established by the community, and in case of AMU, yes, it is right, it was established by Sir Syed Ahmed Khan with the support of few Muslim community people. Okay, so this was right, but its administration must be vested with the community, and this provision was not satisfied by the Aligarh Muslim University. So AMU failed to meet the second criteria. Next, following that, what happened was, in 2016, the Union government actually argued before the Supreme Court that as the executive government at the center, the government cannot be seen as setting up a minority institution in a secular state. Okay, as India is a secular state, the government actually cannot act as a body which is setting up a minority institution. That is what the government had actually told in 2016, in particular the NDA government. Okay. Now the Supreme Court has referred this particular case to a 7-judge bench which is now taking up discussions on issuing the minority status to the particular university. Moving forward, now let us look into the constitutional provisions on minority educational institutions. It is Article 30 Clause 1 where it says that whether based on religion or language shall have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of the particular minority's choice. Clause A, it says that any law regarding the compulsory acquisition of property of such an institution, the state must ensure that the compensation for such a property is paid. And Article 30 Clause 2 mandates that the state shall not discriminate against any educational institution in granting aid. Moving forward, let us look at what are the benefits of being given the educational minority status, okay, minority educational institution status. So, in Malankara Syrian Catholic College versus T. Host and others 2007 case, the Supreme Court actually conferred the following rights to minority educational institutions. So, what are the benefits that they enjoy? The first is they can choose their own governing body. They can admit the eligible students of their choice and set up a reasonable fee structure of their choice. And in matters of admission of the students, the educational institutions can have reservation up to 50% of the students of their community. Moreover, the minority-run institutions will have absolute autonomy to select their teachers without following the government norms, but the process should be very transparent. Moving forward, what are the other important judicial pronouncements regarding the same is that it's TMA Pai Foundation versus State of Karnataka 2002, in which the criteria for determining the minority has been set by the Supreme Court, that is the state's role in determining minority status. What does it say is that it's the responsibility of each individual state to identify who qualifies as a religious or a linguistic minority. This is because one group actually might be a minority in one state and could be a majority in another state. So, it is according to the state's discretion. The second is that national interest and government regulation. While the minorities have the right to manage their educational institution, this right does not override the national interest at any cost. Now let us solve few prelims as well as mains practice questions. The first question reads, which of the following is true regarding the Gini coefficient? The Gini coefficient will only fall when population rises quickly. This is wrong. As the income inequality rises, the Gini coefficient will fall. This is also wrong. As income inequality falls, the Gini coefficient will fall. This is correct. And the Gini coefficient of 1 means absolute equality and 0 means absolute inequality. This is also wrong. So, the question is which of the following is actually true regarding it. So, the answer is C. The second one, consider the following statements. All minorities in India, religious or linguistic, have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. This is correct. State cannot discriminate against any educational institution in granting aid on the ground that it is under the management of a minority, whether based on religion or language. This is correct. Pradhan Mantri Jan Vikas Karyakram, that is PMJVK, is a scheme which is designed to address the development deficits of the identified minority concentration areas. So, which of the given statements is actually correct? So, as per the statements, the answer will be D, that is 1, 2 and 3. All the statements are correct. Moving forward, question number 3. Consider the following statements regarding the National Clean Air Program. It has been launched by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. This is correct. The major pollutants covered under this scheme are particulate matter, then sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide and nitrous dioxide. No, this is wrong because it covers only particulate matter. And Prana portal will track the physical and the financial status of the city air action plan implementation. So, this is correct. So, going by the statements, how many of the above statements are correct? The answer will be B. The next question, arrange the following Lakshadweep islands in order from north to south: Amini, Minicoy, and Chetlat as well as Agadi. So, going by the options, if you refer to this map, the option will be answer A. Moving on, there is a mains practice question which reads, discuss how the non-state actors are posing a threat to the Indian security, and in this regard, define what are low-intensity conflicts and elaborate the challenges faced by conventionally trained military in India due to such conflicts. So, with respect to this particular question, we will start with an introduction where we will explain the concept of what are non-state actors and how they are posing a threat to India. Followed by that, in the body, we will talk about different types of non-state security threats, and then we will define about the low-intensity conflicts, and we will mention the type of stakeholders involved in such conflicts like the local population and terrorist groups as well as other militias, and we will then discuss the challenges posed in multi-dimensions like military, economic, psychological, etc. After that, we will give illustrations from across the world and different geopolitical scenario, and in India, like in Jammu and Kashmir as well as Maoist insurgency, etc. We will also add to it by discussing the concerns with the current military preparedness in the country and how it can be advanced further. And finally, we will conclude the answer with the way forward, where we will talk about enhanced and updated training methods with the emerging warfare. And also, we will say that long lasting solution to curb the insurgency is addressing the underlying socio political and religious issues at the root of different conflicts. So that's all with the daily news analysis today. For regular updates, please like, share, and subscribe to Narayana IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you.